weeks. The show is still going strong, though Jeff passed away in 2014. That's it for this episode of Capital City News. Remember, the best way to stay engaged is to stay informed. You can do that by following our social media at SLC.gov, by subscribing to us on YouTube, or by watching us on Channel 7.
Welcome to today's Salt Lake City Council formal meeting. The City Council has returned to virtual public meetings to help reduce the transmission of COVID-19 due to the rate of COVID-19 cases in the city and elsewhere. This change in meeting attendance is a precautionary measure for the safety of the public and city employees and is based on the latest reports from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. We are continuing to monitor the situation in advance of each meeting, and the council will return with hybrid or in-person meetings when appropriate. We are truly grateful for the public's patience, but most importantly, we are glad that you are joining us today. Thank you. We will begin with a moment of silence as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. When we are done, we will turn our audio back on. For the public comment opportunities today, we are accepting your comments through WebEx, and for those whose only option is to call in, staff will be monitoring a separate telephone line. Before we begin moving through our agenda, I want to mention and review our rules of decorum. These are guidelines that the City Council has always had in place to help our meeting progress in an orderly, civil, and efficient way. These help us move through the agenda and give everyone the opportunity to voice their opinions without feeling intimidated. In order to achieve this, our rules of decorum begin from the moment you arrive into our virtual meeting. The Council does respect all points of view, and we welcome new insights. While giving your comments, please be respectful. Avoid yelling, profanity, or making racial slurs, obscene, or defamatory remarks. If you use profanity during your comment, your line will be muted. If you feel you need to use profanity to express your point, you're welcome to email council members or call our comment line. I truly hope that people can be respectful as we go forward. This is a place where we get to listen to everyone's point of view and to hear the concerns of our citizens. It's the closest form of government that you have access to. And I hope that people who are responding can recognize this or that is and be respectful as we go forward with any comments. Amanda Lau from our staff is helping to moderate the meeting and will be messaging with the attendees to coordinate on any questions with your commenting registration. Staff is handling a number of tasks. Please limit messages to technical issues and minimal changes to your registration. If you'd like to send any comments to the City Council, you are always free to do so. You can mail us at P.O. Box 145476, Salt Lake City, Utah 84114. You can email us at council.comments@slcgov.com, or you can call us at 801-535-7654. At this point, we will move to item A4. A4 is the approval of the work session meeting minutes of Tuesday, March 16th, 2021. I will look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move we approve the minutes.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Wharton and a second by Councilmember Ferris. I will go ahead and roll call this. Councilmember Mono.
Yes.
Councilmember Ferris.
Yes.
Councilmember Valdemoros.
Yes.
Councilmember Wharton.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
And I am a yes. That passes unanimously. At this point, we will move to our public hearings. Taylor Hill on our staff will be calling the names of those who wish to comment and unmuting lines. Once we open the public comment, Taylor will announce 3 names at a time so that people can have some notice and be prepared to speak. When it is your turn to speak, Taylor will say your name, unmute your line, and you may begin. Please state your name and the 2-minute timer will start. At the 2-minute mark, the host will announce time and your microphone will be muted. If you are unable to finish your comment, please refer to your chat screen. Our staff will post our contact information. If you do not wish to speak, please message our staff to let them know, or when the host states your name, just let them know that you are here to listen. Our first public hearing includes grant applications, items B1 through B4, that are being heard as one public hearing. Before we begin taking comments, I will first turn the time over to Sylvia Richards, council staff, to give a short introduction. Sylvia, thank you for being here. The time's yours. Uh-oh, Sylvia, I think that you may be muted, or we just can't hear you.
You're right. I beg your pardon. Thank you, Madam Chair. The city applies for and receives grants which help to support and fund some city programs. Each grant application is reviewed and then receives a public hearing, which gives the public an opportunity to comment on them. Tonight, there are 4 public hearings for grants. The first is the Rocky Mountain High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Salt Lake Metro Narcotics Task Force grant, which will fund 3 existing positions: overtime, vehicle leases, travel, confidential informant funds, and supplies. Second is the 2021 School Age Program Summer Expansion Grant, which will fund salaries and benefits for 4 group facilitators, professional fees, contract services, materials, and supplies for youth city programming. Third is the 2019 State Homeland Security Program grant, which will fund projects in law enforcement, terrorism prevention, interoperable communications, special operations equipment, and emergency recovery plan development for the city. Last is the 2021 Utah State Office of Education Summer Food Service Program grant, which will be used to offset the cost of daily snacks for youth participating in U City summer programming. And that is it for tonight. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Sylvia. Taylor, I will turn it over to you for any comments on these items.
Council Chair, it looks like we do not have anyone here to speak on these items.
Great, thank you. With that, I will look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the council close the public hearing and refer items B1 through B4 to a future consent agenda for action.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Dugan and a second by Councilmember Valdemoros. Roll calling this. Councilmember Mono.
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
Councilmember Valdemoros.
Yes.
Councilmember Wharton.
Yes.
Councilmember Ferris.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
And I am a yes. That passes unanimously. Our second and last public hearing, item E5, is regarding a resolution that would add the honorary street name Pastor France Davis Way on the block of Harvard Avenue between State Street and Main Street, south of Calvary Baptist Church. Before we begin taking comments, I will turn this over to Brian Fulmer, council staff, to give a short introduction.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In addition to serving as pastor at Calvary Baptist Church for more than 40 years, Pastor France Davis was and is still actively involved in community affairs, serving on numerous state and local boards. He provides counsel to community leaders and serves as a bridge builder to community entities. He is also a core commission member of the city's Commission on Racial Equity in Policing. Proposed honorary street name is to recognize Pastor Davis for his contributions to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Taylor, we will turn to any comments.
Council Chair, it looks like we do not have anyone here to speak on this item this evening.
France Davis is here.
Hi, Pastor Davis.
Hi,
Thank you.
how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good. I've been trying to get on my iPad, but couldn't make it, so tried my phone. So there I am.
Well, we appreciate you being here today, and I certainly can speak for myself, and I believe I can speak for most of the council members, if not all of us, that we are so grateful for your service to Salt Lake City. We're grateful for your wisdom, your compassion, and your passion to the residents and people that within Salt Lake City. It is an honor to be able to do this honorary naming in your name. And I'm so grateful that you could make it today. I would turn it over to any other council member that would like to say anything, or Madam Mayor, if you'd like to say something.
Oh, I just wonder if Reverend Davis would like a minute or two.
I was
Sure,
gonna,
I'd like to say thank you to the mayor, to the members of the council, and to all of those who are part of this process. And it's a real honor to have a street named and honorarily in my name. So thank you. God bless.
thank you, Pastor Davis. With that, I will look for a motion.
Madam Chair. Oh, go for it, Councilmember Dugan.
Move the council close the public hearing and adopt the resolution.
Second.
Oh,
I have a motion by Councilmember Dugan and a second by Councilmember Rogers. Roll calling this, Councilmember Dugan,
Yes.
Councilmember Valdemoros,
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Wharton,
yes.
Councilmember Mono,
Yes.
Councilmember Ferris.
Yes.
And I'm a yes, and that passes unanimously. If I may, the only thing I would ask from administration, is that we be invited to see when this is actually placed up in the area. I would love to be there, and I'm sure others would. So, Pastor Davis, thank you so much for joining us. And again, like I said, for all of your work.
Thank you. And I would appreciate being invited as well whenever that time comes.
Very much so, Pastor.
Thank you.
With that, council members, we will turn to section C. These are the potential action items. C1 is regarding an ordinance that would close and vacate a portion of a city-owned alley at approximately 740 South Goshen Street between Goshen Street and approximately 1075 West as a public right-of-way. With that, I will look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the council adopt the ordinance.
Second.
I have a motion by Council Member Rogers, a second by Council Member Dugan. Is there any discussion on this? I will roll call. Councilmember Dugan,
Yes.
Councilmember Valdemoros,
Yes.
Councilmember Wharton,
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Ferris,
Yes.
Councilmember Mono.
Yes.
I am a yes, and that passes unanimously. Item C3 is regarding an ordinance that would amend the zoning ordinance pertaining to appeals of administrative decisions. I will look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the council adopt the ordinance and include language requiring a hearing officer to make reasonable efforts to respond to a stay request within 10 days of the appeal being deemed complete. Also, if a stay is requested, the hearing officer shall make reasonable efforts to determine whether a stay is appropriate within 10 days of the appeal being deemed complete. If the hearing officer does not decide a request for a stay within 10 days of the appeal being deemed complete, the request shall be presumed denied. No stay will be authorized for incomplete appeals or appeals filed after the appeal deadline.
Second.
I have a motion by Council Member Wharton and a second by Council Member Dugan. Is that right? Any discussion on this? I will roll call it. Councilmember Wharton,
Yes.
Councilmember Ferris,
Yes.
Councilmember Valdemoros,
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan,
Yes.
Councilmember Mono,
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Did I get everyone? I am a yes, and that passes unanimously. Whenever I see Cindy Lou pop up on the screen, it means something happened. So Cindy Lou, what can I do for you?
We just inadvertently skipped number 2.
Oh, I did I?
That's with Allie vacation.
Yes, I did. I scrolled down one page too far on my iPad. Thank you, Cindy Lou. Council members, we will go back to item C2, which is an ordinance that would vacate 5 unimproved city-owned alleys and 6 unimproved city-owned streets situated within Rosewood Park, located approximately at 1400 North, 1200 West. I will look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the council adopt the ordinance.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Rogers and a second by Councilmember Valdemoros. I will go ahead and roll call this. Any discussion before I get there? Nope. Okay. Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
Councilmember Valdemoros.
Yes.
Councilmember Warden.
Yes.
Councilmember Ferris.
Yes.
Councilmember Mono.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
I am a yes, and that passes unanimously. With that, we are, I believe, oh, sorry, nope, hold please. We are on item C4. This is a resolution for project funding allocations in the capital improvement program. I will look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the council approve a resolution adopting the capital improvement program project-specific allocations for fiscal year 2021-2022 as shown on the attached Exhibit A funding log.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Rogers, a second by Councilmember Warden. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, roll call it is. Councilmember Ferris.
Yes.
Councilmember Warden.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Councilmember Mono.
Yes.
Councilmember Valdemoros.
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
I am a yes, and that passes unanimously. This brings us to section D of our agenda. Questions to the mayor from the city council. City council, Madam Mayor, as always, thank you for joining us. And council members, are there any questions for our mayor? I don't see any. Madam Mayor, is there anything you would like to say today?
No, thanks for having me.
Thank you, as always, for being here. It's very much appreciative. Appreciated. Sorry, my brain. We, friends, are on to D2 in our agenda. These are comments to the city council. I believe that the majority of people who were registered to speak were here earlier when I went over the rules and decorum of our council meeting. It was only about 22 minutes ago. So instead, I'm not going to reread everything. I'm just going to ask again that people be respectful of us and of one another as you give your comments. We want to hear everybody's comments and we appreciate differing views, but we do not want to tolerate disrespect or intimidation in our council meetings. And if that is how you want to feel and express yourself, then you can always reach out to us in any of the other forms that we have. You can write us, email us, call us. All that information will be in the chat box for your information, or it will be online in our, you can look at our website. With that being said, I am going to turn the time over to Taylor to start our comment period.
Council Chair, it looks like we have about 13 people here to speak for general comment. The first of which will be Daniel Schelling, followed by Alice McHugh, and then Lisa Manuel. Daniel, you're now unmuted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Good evening. I would like to begin by thanking the City Council for including in the 2021-22 budget a conditional appropriation clause that requires the Public Lands Department to meet certain criteria prior to receiving funds to undertake work on Phase 2 of the Foothills Trails Master Plan. One such criterion involves, quote, objectively evaluating strategies for the preservation and stewardship of the land. I would also like to point out to the City Council that of the 37 miles of trails presently planned for Phase 2 of the Foothills Trails Master Plan, 25 miles or 67% of the proposed trails are located within what the master plan defines as, quote, habitat study area. There's little question that the purpose of including habitat study areas in the master plan is to require that habitat studies be carried out prior to the design and construction of trails located within these areas. And yet, as of this summer, the required habitat studies have not yet been initiated. Furthermore, in order to effectively undertake habitat studies in the foothills, it will be necessary to conduct the studies over a full year period to ensure that habitats are examined during all 4 seasons. It is therefore clear that funding for 2/3 of the trails included in the $5.3 million Phase 2 budget cannot and should not be approved by the City Council within the next year. It is also unknown to the public whether or not any of the $5.3 million requested for the implementation of Phase 2 include funds for doing the habitat studies required by the master plan. If not, I encourage the City Council to ensure that adequate funds are provided to the administration to have outside experts undertake the habitat studies that should be completed prior to releasing funds for trail construction within the identified habitat study areas. Thank you.
And next we will hear from Alice McHugh, followed by Lisa Manuel, and then Polly Hart. Alice, you're now unmuted.
Thank you. Many organizations and community leaders have called for a study of the impacts of the Utah inland port's various sources of pollution on the health of residents on the west side and down the Salt Lake Valley. Such a human health risk assessment requires data on the projected traffic to, from, and within the port. Mayor Mendenhall asked for this traffic study by the Wasatch Front Regional Council, the ones who have such modeling software, and was told they could not get any of the necessary data from UWIPA. The traffic data can be generated from projections of jobs. The Port Authority has always justified the port as a source of, quote, good, high-paying jobs, end quote. But when we ask for a projection of those jobs, we are told we do not know. How can they justify the port as a source of jobs and not know? What can the City Council do to pressure UWIPA to work with those developers in the port and provide jobs information? Then a traffic study can be completed and we can finally have data on the risks the port poses for human health. Thank you.
And next we will have Lisa Manuel, followed by Polly Hart, and then Beverly Cooper. Lisa, you are unmuted.
Good evening. I am Lisa Manuel. I live in District 4. The Utah Inland Port Authority Strategic Plan's technical appendix states repeatedly and pointedly that the Port Authority cannot control environmental protection standards for projects in the port area. The plan took 2 years and taxpayer dollars to write. UWIPA is serious. True, the plan lists some green possibilities, but responsibility is attributed to the city or to no one. Also, the definitions of UWIPA's core values, accountability, sustainability, creativity, collaboration, and equity do not include environmental protection. UWIPA's definition of sustainability is, quote, a high quality of life and a thriving economy for the next generation, unquote. I don't see a logical connection between filthy, diesel-laden air and a high quality of life. Remember, there is no one to mandate electric trucks, equipment, or charging stations. Current and future generations will suffer higher temperatures from escalating summer ozone levels and intensely unhealthful, disgusting winter inversions. Extreme damage to the Great Salt Lake wetlands, home to millions of migratory birds, should be expected at full build-out because recently built warehouses are not in compliance with city standards. Motor oil contaminated runoff can wash into wetlands today. The port risks the profitability of our ski industry and harms our ability to attract high-paying jobs and host the Olympics. That's not a thriving economy. Please count the cost of a few thousand low-paid warehouse jobs that may require in-migration to fill. Thank you.
And next we will hear from Polly Hart, followed by Beverly Cooper, and then Eric Edelman. Polly, you are now unmuted.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I have been a Salt Lake County trail user, a Utah trail user for over 31 years. I've hiked, I've biked, and I've skied on Utah trails literally thousands of times. In fact, I moved here so I wouldn't have to get on an airplane every time I wanted to use Utah trails. That was more than half of my lifetime ago. I am such a strong believer in trails that I think every user group, from casual walkers and picnickers up to professional athletes, deserve trails and should be encouraged to use trails. Every user group that wants to should have trails. I love trails that are well planned and built using best practices. However, most of the new foothills trails are neither of those things. This morning, a PPL staffer admitted that lack of planning resulted in one of those new trails being built through a coyote den. In what world does this qualify as sustainable or environmentally sensitive? Best practices must be followed moving forward in both planning and implementation. We have one chance to do this right. Please, let's prioritize the best interests of our environment, because once it's gone, that's it. I need to thank you all for being willing to listen to people every Tuesday evening of your lives. You guys are so amazing and awesome, and you just take so much flack from the public, and we come and we complain and we never say thank you. You're doing a really good job. And I just want to tell you that I think you guys are doing a great job. And, thank you all for what you do. I'm so grateful that I lost both of my city council races.
Time.
And next we will hear from Beverly Cooper, followed by Eric Edelman, and then Hillary Jacobs. Beverly, you are now unmuted.
I echo Polly's comments, thanking you for your commitment and work and for your attention to the trails, and to those of you who have taken time to visit the trails. It's come to my attention that one of the problems we have raised on the trails is because of a lack of funding. All the traditional studies that would normally be done before undertaking a project like this, geologic, environmental, habitat, etc., were not adequately funded in the master plan. So the trail builders were handicapped in proceeding with their work, almost like working blindfolded. It is my request that as we move forward with the next steps, that some of the designated 5.3 million be earmarked for these studies so we can do this right. I believe that if these had been done, some of the problems of stability and destruction of habitat could have been avoided. Thank you.
And now we will have Eric Edelman, followed by Hillary Jacobs, and then Sarah Bennett. Eric, you are unmuted.
Thank you. Thank you, City Council, for having me. I wanted to express my appreciation to Amy Fowler for taking the time to walk through the trail system with me, and Dan Dugan for having a conversation. I've expressed my concern with the master plan that's been presented. We have seen a plan that, as was just voiced, was not thoroughly thought out or did not have proper funding. We've seen certain errors or things that we could improve on in phase 2. And I don't believe that jumping right in and performing phase 2 is the right way forward, as we've seen immense issues with erosion and other maintenance problems. I had the opportunity to speak with Tyler Fonero with the Parks Department. Kristen Riker was very helpful with setting that meeting up. And he informed me of how few funds they have to maintain the existing trail system. If we are to build 50 miles and more trail, the parks need to have the staff, the understanding to maintain the trails we currently have. So the future trails that we build, we understand what's going to occur, what kind of erosion issues we might have, what kind of user conflicts we might have, and how we might proceed. We need to build the best trails possible. We should utilize and improve the existing trails. One area the master plan fell short on is it did not present the existing trails. What resulted was we have redundant trails on Twin Peaks and above Morris Meadow that were built within 20 yards of existing trails that could easily have been improved with minimal impact to the hillside and the vegetation in the surrounding area. We need a period of time to properly review phase one moving forward. As it has been voiced, it's important that we do this correctly. We don't just jump out there and build these trails. We've had some issues. We've learned a lot as a city, and it's important moving forward that we take those learnings and we apply them properly. The other recommendation I would have is please don't construct dense switchback-laden trails on the front of these peaks. The current trails that are being proposed, we would see switchbacks from the city. Proper trail design would result in these switchbacks being positioned in such a way we would not see them, and we would reduce the amount of vegetation and habitat destroyed. Once again, I'd like to thank the mayor for your efforts. I realize this has not been easy, but I believe if we work together by learning through the phase one, we might be able to develop the best trail network possible while maintaining the beauty and the habitat for the wildlife in the area. Thank you.
And now we will hear from Hillary Jacobs, followed by Sarah Bennett, and then Allison Muser. Hillary, you are now unmuted.
Thank you. My name is Hillary Jacobs, and I am a member of Save Our Foothills. I would like to state for the record and to clarify for you, the City Council, the position of Save Our Foothills. Salt Lake City is among very few cities that are embraced by beautiful mountain backdrops, and Salt Lake City is unique in that the foothills include an extremely fragile ecosystem resulting from the arid climate and steep, unstable hillsides. Save Our Foothills believes that one can strike a balance between environmental protection and recreational use in the foothills, but only if one makes a comprehensive plan that considers the unique, fragile nature of this particular environment. Trails are an important way to protect the integrity of delicate natural areas if they are well planned using scientific studies. At a minimum, geological, biological, habitat, archaeological, cultural, and historical, and any other studies fundamental in understanding each natural area and its social setting. Then the trails must be designed using the information gleaned from these studies and built using construction practices appropriate for the environment in which they are being placed. And any planning process that falls short of this, that cuts corners or doesn't take into consideration the unique needs of an ecosystem or the impact that different activities will have on or damage that they will cause to the environment, is not comprehensive and will not balance these needs. Save Our Foothills advocates for this balance. Our foothills deserve no less. Thanks.
And now we will hear from Sarah Bennett, followed by Allison Muser, and then Brian Hutchinson.
Thank you to everyone. The council, as has been said, you guys do a really tough job and spend a lot of time hearing complaints from people. I also want to really thank everybody who has taken the time to comment on the Trails Plan. I have been involved with development of stakeholder agreements and original visioning for this plan since 2015. It's been a really long process. There was thousands of participants that provided written input, that participated in an online mapping effort. Yes, certainly there were missteps initially, and the trail builders were given very narrow parameters in which they could build trails, mostly due to private property constraints. And it's very true that the materials in the foothills in the area are very loose and unconsolidated. The trail builders, no one involved in the trail building business is out there just bulldozing and, carelessly gouging out the landscape. Those of us that have given our lives to developing trails, planning trails, working with communities, care deeply for the landscape and care very much for the wild communities of both plants and animals that live there. I've grown very concerned over the weeks with the misinformation that's been put out there. And what I've heard tonight, I think, is a lot better than what's been put out in the past.
Now we will hear from Allison Muser, followed by Brian Hutchinson, and then Simeon Haymond. Allison, you are now unmuted.
Allison, we're having some trouble with your connection.
91 North. Thank you.
Taylor, can you mute Allison and troubleshoot with her via the chat? We'll go to the next person. Just let her know. Obviously, she'll get her full 2 minutes. We couldn't hear anything.
Yes, we will move on to Brian Hutchinson, and then Simeon Haymond. Brian, you are unmuted.
Thank you. Yeah, let me, excuse me, I wasn't ready for that. Okay, the CHNC Transportation Committee, our neighborhood council board, the neighborhood and many citizens throughout the region thank the mayor and the city council for the approval and funding of the Capitol Hill Traffic Calming Project. This is a sign of the city's commitment to the restoration of livable neighborhoods where walkable communities replace the streets of terror, the result of over a century and a half of car-first planning or the lack thereof. The city is acting on a major quality of life issue. Automobiles have been destroying neighborhoods. Cars, pickups, motorcycles, heavy trucks have been given free rein. Minimal planning and very little engineering for safety and neighborhood livability had existed. We could thank our fellow citizens for their increased awareness stemming from being cooped up while dealing with COVID and other social issues, or we may thank over 160 major cities in over 16 countries for worldwide who've paved the way for taking significant measures to reimagine their neighborhood streets. The city has realized and now addressing that the home in the neighborhood should be a place of refuge, of safety and protection against the noise and pollution of an industrial world. Those of us who are investing in higher density neighborhoods should be guaranteed of communities that are engineered to optimize livability. Our neighborhood council, the Salt Lake Transportation Division, Salt Lake PD, and UDOT have subscribed to a program that abides by the 3 E's: education, engineering, and enforcement. We recognize that a successful program involves commitment to each component, and that enforcement would not have sustaining effect without everyone understanding the issues, how each of us can help with the solutions. A key understanding that underlies the quality of life issues of safety, air quality, and noise is that they are all a function of speed. In regard to speed and mortality, the odds of a pedestrian dying from a collision with a car traveling 25 miles per hour are twice that of with a car traveling.
Okay, we will go back to Allison Muser and then move on to Simeon Haymond and then Lance Lavizo. Allison, you are now unmuted. Okay, we will troubleshoot with her once more and move on to Simeon Heyment. Okay, it looks like Simeon has left the meeting, so we will move on to Lance Leviso. Lance, you are now unmuted.
Hey, how you guys doing? Hear me?
Yep. Yep, we can hear you, Lance.
Oh, okay, cool.
You need to talk up a little bit more.
Talk up a little bit more?
There you go.
All right, perfect. How you guys doing? Nice. Yeah, sorry, I had a little delay to get in, but I'm here. So just want to say thank you to everybody. I think the CIP was a great thing. Your father brought it to my attention a couple years ago, and we just kept trying to execute. It's a great program for the community, with kids and some adults as well. Salt Lake City's Liberty Park basketball court hasn't really been prepared, upkept for so long. It feels like that. It's time. It's time. It's 2021, 2022. A whole bunch of new energy going on. We're super excited to bring the youth down there and have a festivals and everything down in the city. Historical Liberty Park. So I just want to say shout out to Amy Fowler. Thank you guys for taking the time to consider us candidates. See ya.
Okay, and then we will move on to Allison once more. Allison, you're unmuted.
Third time's a charm, hopefully.
We can hear you.
Excellent. Thank you all so much for your patience. My comments today are regarding the subdivision application for the Swanner property, which I understand you learned about in a meeting earlier today. And I'll be following up this meeting with a formal letter from the West Point Community Council. The West Point community was surprised by the timing of such a large subdivision proposal, given Salt Lake City's in the process of spending $100,000 with Logan Simpson to update the North Point Small Area Master Plan. This master plan has not been updated since 2000 and no longer accurately represents the current state or needs of the surrounding community. My apologies, I've been running around. Whew. With the Swanner property comprising of approximately 30% of the North Point Small Area Master Plan, it's difficult to understand how the approval of 22 subdivisions will not directly undermine the planning process that is currently underway. Ironically, the original master plan came about as a result of circumstances similar to what our community faces today. According to the plan's introduction, it was developed when residents spoke out against the proposed development for fear of being pushed out of the area. In response, the City Council adopted a 6-month moratorium to allow the creation of a small area plan for North Point. More than 20 years later, the residents of this unique area again seek a moratorium to ensure the development of the area reflects our best and most thoughtful efforts. Delaying action on the subdivision proposal does not deny rights, as the applicants can reapply at a later date, but it does ensure that the pandemic is not used to divert civic attention away from harmful land use decisions. Thank you.
And that was our final comment this evening.
Great. I want to thank everyone for who commented tonight. We appreciate you reaching out and talking with us. We are on to agenda item E, new business. Item E1 is approving the appointment of Stephen Meyer as Director of the 911 Dispatch Department. I will look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Rogers, a second by Councilmember Wharton. Any discussion on this? Okay, roll call. Councilmember Mono.
Yes.
Councilmember Ferris.
Yes.
Councilmember Wharton.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
And Councilmember Valdemoros.
Yes.
And I am a yes. That passes unanimously. We have no unfinished business items today. And last but certainly not least, we are at our consent agenda. Section G, I will look for a motion.
Move for approval of the consent agenda, Madam Chair.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Rogers, second by Councilmember Ferris. I will roll call this. Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
Councilmember Valdemoros.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Councilmember Ferris.
Yes.
Councilmember Mono.
Yes.
Councilmember Warden.
Yes.
And I am a yes. That passes unanimously. I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. And with that, we are adjourned. We will see you in 2 weeks because there is no council meeting next week. Bye.